Welcome to V2, the Institute for the Unstable Media. Welcome to TestLab active listeners. For those here at TestLab for the first time tonight, this is where V2 invites artists to bring their work demonstrated to us, and where you as an audience serve as a critical test panel to these works. And work in the context of TestLab means anything between a first set of experiments or a full-blown finished work. And testing basically means that you get to experience everything direct, live, or where possible, hands-on. The evening is therefore also split up in two parts. In the first part, we get to know the people behind the work, and we'll get a demonstration of the work. And in the second part, we'll get a chance to explore everything ourselves, or have a closer look, and also chat with the artists, because that's what these test labs eventually are all about, that you leave your comments and feedback with the people behind the work. Another way in which you can do that, if you want to spread it more general, is by tweeting about what you see tonight, and your tweets will appear on this screen here, and hopefully that will contribute to the general discussion informally, or in the informal part of tonight's program. Okay, we always organize these test labs around a certain theme, and tonight that theme, as you will know, is active listeners. Now, before I start to explain what we mean by active listeners, I would like to show you a little snippet from a live tour video of Daft Punk.
Buy it, use it, break it, fix it, trash it, change it, melt, upgrade it, charge it, point it, zoom it, press it, snap it, work it, quick erase it, write it, cut it, paste it, save it, load it, check it, quick rewrite it, plug it, play it, burn it, rip it, drag it, drop it, zip, unzip it, lock it, fill it, call it, find it, view it, code it, jump and lock it, surf it, scroll it, pose it, click it, cross it, crack it, switch, update it, name it, read it, tune it, print it, scan it, send it, fax, rename it, touch it, bring it, pay it, watch it, turn it, leave it, start, format it, buy it, use it, break it, fix it, trash it, change it, melt, upgrade it, charge it, point it, zoom it, press it, snap it, work it, quick erase it, write it, cut it, paste it, save it, load it, check it, quick rewrite it, plug it, play it, burn it, rip it, drag it, drop it, zip, unzip it, lock it, fill it, call it, find it, view it, code it, jump and lock it, surf it, scroll it, pose it, click it, cross it, crack it, switch, update it, name it, read it, tune it, print it, scan it, send it.
We have two videos running at the same time. Technology. But what I wanted to first, why I'm showing you this clip is because the context is interesting. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. But also the content of the song is interesting in this respect. Technologic, the song by Daft Punk, is all about the many different ways in which technology has become part of our daily lives. And if you look at this live context in which this Daft Punk concert takes place, there's a lot to say about how technology became a part in that. If Richard can magically make appear the next slide, we'll see. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we'll see that in this live context, there's a lot of technology happening on stage, a lot of engagement with technology. There's the LED screen, the spotlights, all of that is all there to add to this speculative, or how do you say it, like the spectacular show. Also inside this pyramid, I don't know if you've ever seen this. Richard, can you turn it a little bit around so I can see which slide? Okay. If you look inside this pyramid, this is all the technology that they use inside to create live their music and also manipulate their sounds and creating a different show every time. Where there's also a lot of technological engagement is in the audience nowadays. There's all this technology there among the audience to capture and to share what is happening on stage. What is interesting about this, though, is that while there's a lot of technology creating new possibilities for the live creation of music on stage, and there's a lot of technology in the crowd to document and share what's happening on stage, the relation between the audience and the performer is not very much affected by technology. Daft Punk tried to do this, or at least gave it a shot, by creating this app. I don't know if you've been playing around with it, but it's the iDaft app, and it allows you to recreate two of their most popular songs. So you can be your own Daft Punk if you want. But this app sparked a little discussion in our lab upstairs, and that was why create another live setting to yourself and not have the audience become a part or become more actively involved in the live performance happening on stage. So really redefining this relation between the audience and the performer. Because if you look at it honestly, the relation between the audience and the performers has not really changed ever since we didn't use much technology in these live settings. So what we, and if you look at the theoreticians involved in this stuff, they do see that there's a development going on there. This is Chris Salter talking about the concert hall shifting from a passive arena of listening to an interactive zone of improvisation. So what is interesting is that he includes the audience in that. So we set out tonight to find out what this shift from passive listening to active listening actually means. And we had a good look around to see through which projects we can sort of give an answer to this question. What does it mean to be an active listening in this interactive zone of improvisation? And we found a few projects that actually do that. The first two on this list, Crowd DJ by Tom Laan and Nomadic Sound System by Ben Newland, very literally do that by making you co-performer of the performance taking place. Then there's Microscopic Opera by Matthijs Munnik, which we'll also see demonstrated tonight, which basically takes the performer himself or herself not as a given, but as a variable. Then there's Evolving Spark Network by Edwin van der Heide. Some of you might have seen that here during Museum Night already, but tonight we're going to see a live version of this installation. And rather than looking at a stage where this performance is taking place, we'll be looking up where stuff is happening. And you already see part of that installation up here. And then there's a project coming forth out of the V2 Lab, which is Spasm 2.0. And this project takes the sound sources, not as a static given, but as a variable that you can change in a live setting as well. So that's all the fuel for the program tonight. We're first going to have a look at these projects, the people behind the projects, and then in the second part this evening, you get to experience it all yourself. For the first project, that is Microscopic Opera, we'll move to those white cubes over there. This is Mathijs next to me.
Hey.
He's a new media artist that creates what you could call performative installations. For one of these installations, he received the Kunstlicht Award 2010. And in the same year, he also received another award, which is the Designers and Artists for Genomics Award. And on the basis of that award, he started investigating into the project that we'll see demonstrated here tonight called Microscopic Opera. I have to already say that this is a test setting, especially for tonight. The eventual work will look completely different. But Matthijs, maybe you can start by explaining what we're looking at?
Yeah, sure. So as you said, this is a test setup for a test lab. And I've been working on this for a while, and I want to, with Microscopic Opera, I want to, instead of human performance, use microorganisms as performers. So I want to somehow take their movements or their and then use that as controllers for sound or whatever I want, and then use them to create some kind of theater or opera or now I'm developing this technology and writing the software for this, but it's still really in development stage. So when V2 asked me if I could show something, I decided to use it, what I had, in a slightly different way to create a more, instead of an opera, more of a cinema. So what you will see tonight is a small thing I made especially for tonight, where I have 3 microscopes that each have 3 Petri dishes containing these worms. They're called C. elegans, about 1 millimeter long, and they make these really nice movements. And I will project them live on the screens. You will see in a second. And then there will be some kind of soundtrack accompanying them that will be controlled by the worms themselves.
So am I understanding correctly that the Petri dishes are your stages?
Yeah, you could see that. I think it would be great if we can move from the macro world or from the world we live in. And then if you take this Petri dish, it may look very small, but if you realize that 1 millimeter, what you see on the screen is maybe 2 millimeter by 2 millimeter, so then you realize that this Petri dish, this stage, can become gigantic.
Can we see one?
Well, wait, I'll show it when the performance.
You want to show them all together?
Yeah.
And one thing I was also wondering is why did you call it the microscopic opera and not the microscopic band or the microscopic DJ?
Well, I think most of all, a microscopic opera is also a really visual title. When you say it, immediately you start thinking or seeing some kind of thing in your head. And also because I would love to make it a real opera where this movement and the music and some kind of poetry even gets combined in some total experience.
Okay. Well, I don't know about you, but I got quite curious about what it looks like. Are there any questions for now?
Or maybe afterwards, it's also okay,
Yeah.
I think. Okay. Wacht, eerst de. Oké, deze vast.
Richard, can we have some lights for the next demonstration? Thank you. Okay, please grab a hold of Matthijs later on to talk about the performance you just saw. Here we have another Mathijs Oosterhoudt. And he studies audiovisual design at the Willem de Koning Academy and interned at V2 working on the project that he'll demonstrate in a second called Spasm 2.0. On the other side of me is Boris Debackere, currently lab manager of V2, but before he took that position, he started at V2 as an artist in residence, and he actually conceived the idea behind Spasm. So I called both of them up here, but I think Matthijs will first show us what we're looking at.
Well, this is the map, and basically what Spasm is a spatial audio mixer for live performance. And here we have a map, and this map represents the space that you see over there, where people are standing now currently. And basically what you can do is play sounds virtually in those space. And one listener can walk through this space with a headphone on, and is being tracked by a laser scanner and an inertia cube, and then can move through this virtual audio space as if it were a real space with real sounds.
Okay, maybe you should also explain what this laser scanner is and the inertia cube and how that works.
That's a good idea. Laser scanner is actually quite ingenious. It's a laser, yeah, and it spins around. And what it does, it measures the time it takes for the laser to get back. And by knowing how much time it takes, it knows the distance between the object and the laser, and therefore it can see the distance of each object in the space that it's scanning at the same time. And that's what we use. That's what we use to track the position of the listener. And the inertia cube is a small cube that tracks the axis in which it is turned. And this is what we use to track the angle of the listener to know which way it's looking.
And can you tell me again how this relates to the part over there?
Well, basically, here you see a large sphere, and this is the beach. And when a listener is in this position, it will hear a beach. And the closer it is to the center of this large sphere, the louder the sound will be. And in the software, we can define exactly how soft it will be, how hard it will be, but also the way it becomes soft, like the envelope.
So basically this beach is actually there, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And Boris, maybe you can explain us how this is version 2.0 and how it differs from 1.0.
Okay. Maybe I will start by explaining maybe very quickly like what a spatial audio mixer is, because maybe some people don't know. I think you can compare it with if you play a video game and you walk through a virtual space, and all of a sudden, for instance, you walk on a street and there are shops, and you hear a butcher shop and you hear a cafe as you go along in the video game. And the placement of these sounds in this virtual 3D space is actually kind of spatial audio mixing. So you have sound sources that are placed in a 3D space. And this is exactly what Spasm does, but in a real-time manner. So you can, like with an audio mixer that you use to mix stereo or mono channels together, here the output is a three-dimensional space instead of, I mean, it's perceived in stereo, but you can have a kind of idea that a sound is somewhere in the space somewhere, and you can walk through the space. In the first place, we focused in the 1.0 version very much on the mixer itself. And we thought like, okay, this works now, but how can we break it open so that more people can start using it? And what we did basically, well, what Matthijs did especially, was implement it in Ableton Live. So Ableton Live is a quite popular audio program where you can work with sounds, where you and samples, where you can work with MIDI also. And it has now this feature is called Max for Live, which is Max MSP implemented in Ableton Live. And what we did is basically translate this Max patch which it was originally, into a Max for Live setting. So a lot more people that use Ableton can download this for free and just go and play at home with it.
And why would people download that? Like, what kind of context do you see for this work?
Several contexts, actually. You could, for instance, simulate a multi-speaker setup. Let's say you want to make an installation with multiple speakers in the room, and you want to know how that will sound. Then you can virtually build this multi-speaker setup and walk virtually through that setup. We also had applications for virtual environments, virtual reality applications, augmented reality applications, where you as a spectator walk around in a space and where sound sources are placed in a space. So there are several applications to it.
I know it's actually a thing that should be experienced by one person, right? But we have multiple headphones here. So how are we going to demonstrate this?
Well, right now we're going to demonstrate it over the speaker system. One person will be walking there, and we can all hear what he's hearing. But of course, the effect is much more effective if you're hearing it yourself through a headphone, and actually hear if you actually move. I mean, now we watch someone move and we hear the sound change, but it's much different if you experience it yourself. But at least we can get an idea of how it works.
Shall we pull a volunteer out and...
I have a volunteer just for now, at least. But we first should clear this space. Everyone get out of this square so we can set it up. And then our volunteer suddenly appears.
So the space is what?
The space is the green lines, but let's step back a little bit further just in case something doesn't work perfectly. Because
you said that if anyone would step into the space, the whole demo would be ruined, right?
Yeah, that's true. So please don't. We can already hear some sound.
So what we have now is one person moving in the space, and you changing audio sources, right?
Yeah, right now he's just walking, but I can also change audio as he's walking, as I can see where he is. For example, I can bug him with these seagulls, let them follow him just manually at this point. So you can influence that live, and even dynamic movement, like following listeners or moving away from listeners, is possible now. Yes, he approaches it and it becomes louder, and also the way he turns his head determines from which ear he hears it.
So I guess we should just all try it out afterwards, right?
Yeah, you're free to come try it out after the presentation, I suppose.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, for the next demonstration, we're going to talk with the artists here, but you don't necessarily have to move here, because the action is going to happen at the ceiling, or at least looking up. Next to me is Edwin van der Heide, a Dutch artist and researcher focusing on sound, space and interaction. And his body of work comprises installations, performances and environments. And what I think is interesting about Edwin's work is that performance and installation switches sometimes. And for those who visited V2 during the museum night, you have seen an interactive installation called Evolving Spark Network. That's this thing at the ceiling. But tonight we're going to see a live performance with the same installation. And that would be my first question also to Edwin. Isn't that more or less, isn't that strange to switch between the two with the same work?
No, it's definitely strange. But I think it's important to know that I really have a music background, a live performance background, so I like to work with things live. And still, in a lot of pieces that I make, I really want to put myself in a sense as performer in the piece, at least during the development process, which is a different thing than the presentation process, because in the 90s I was doing a lot of stage-based performances using sensor-based instrument, doing real-time audio synthesis and really trying to develop my own instruments. But at a certain moment I really became interested in using space, sculpting space, and in a sense you can say using the space itself as an instrument and not so much anymore doing stage-based performances. And at that moment you can say that in a sense, although you could still perform live, the focus on the performer at least disappeared. And for example, also in LSP, my laser sound performances, I do them live, although they have gotten also an installation component. But the focus is completely not on me, it's really on what happens. But I like to do it live as a concept, just to put myself in the middle of the problem that I also created.
But then, I mean, tonight we're going to move from an installation version to a live version. But if you do it the other way around, and I'm also asking this because we started the evening in sort of the popular music vibe, isn't that like putting your instruments on stage and telling everyone, have a go with it?
Yeah, but it's, I would say an interactive installation, what you can expect from people, is different from putting just the instruments on stage. It's the same as if we would put a piano here or a drum kit. A real piano player or a drum kit, a drummer would be able to do a great performance with it, but it's difficult to relate as an audience to it, and especially as a bigger audience to it. And the way I think about interactive works is that interactive installations should make people interact. So it's not, the action is actually not at the audience and that the installation reacts, but it should be that the installation has already a behavior that invites the audience to interact with the installation. So I would say that, sure, we can think about interactive installations as instruments, but nevertheless the behavior of an interactive installation should be quite different from just, or not from just, but from what a musical instrument is.
Okay. And another question, why did you decide to put it on the ceiling and not like against a wall or something?
There are a couple of reasons. What I like in this case, because I mean, I'm using electrical sparks. It's really, I mean, they're very short impulses. It's a flash, but it's also a loud sound. And what is interesting also is that people sometimes ask me, yeah, but where does the sound come from? We see the flash, that is the spark, but is there still a speaker? No, there is no speaker. It is the spark that is actually that loud. But what happens is that with seeing, we focus on things, we look at things. And with sound, we always perceive the space around us. So that means that also here, I can look in this direction and look at what happens over there, but still sonically, things can happen above me and things can happen behind me. While with our eyes, you can say, yeah, a vertical plane works well, like a projection screen, but for our ears, it works much better to have things in the horizontal plane. And in this case, yeah, it's good to have a bit of height. I mean, it could have been underneath the people, but it would have been much more difficult to construct and different. But yeah, it is for the acoustic reasons, so really how we hear and creating a space around us that we have to relate to.
I had the feeling when I looked at people entering this space during museum night that because it was happening up at the ceiling, they also went into this mode of amazing, like as if they were watching fireworks, you know. Somehow, if you look up, you enter this mode of microphone like, oh. I thought maybe that was also a motivation for you to put it on the ceiling.
Not directly.
Okay.
But I mean, it's more that I think it's an interesting way of creating an environment in relation to the people. Yeah.
And another question. You have a nice metaphor between this work and the human nervous system. Can you explain it to us?
Yeah. So I have to say that in the performance part, it's different. But the metaphor that I really explored also is thinking about each spark bridge as a cell, and so together they form network cells. That's also why I like to have the setup where you at least see interconnections between the different spark bridges. So it visualizes a little bit of network structure too. And I use a way of control where they intercommunicate with each other and form different structures, different patterns. There are different speeds of communication, there are different directions of communication, but the communication goes from one to the other to the other. In the performance I have and that's similar to a network of neurons or how things work in our body.
And if normally, or in the interactive version, people moving are your input, then what is your input now? Your keys, or?
Yeah, what I have now is currently I have impulse generators, and the impulse generators, these impulses, they traverse through the network, and I can do it at different speeds. And it's a form of control that I started to use for the pneumatic sound fields, that in a sense you can say or has some, is it me? Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I think it's okay. Yeah. So there are some similarities to pneumatic sound field in the sense it's also above the audience. We have some it's going up and down.
Well, since our PA is giving up, maybe we should just see you perform then.
Yeah, we don't need a PA anymore. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Next station. Am I on? Am I? Yeah. I invite Tom Laan here, interactive media design student at the Royal Academy in The Hague. And he has a special interest in music, and what we'll see tonight is how these two interests combine, interaction design and music. And I think I should give a word to Tom to explain us where the DJ is in Crowd DJ.
The DJ, well actually, Crowd DJ itself is nothing without people. So what you see is pretty much nothing but people. Yeah, you do see some squares on the floor and there's a small camera above there. But you do need people. What Crowd DJ does, it's a small dance floor, and each of the squares on the dance floor trigger an audio channel of an audio composition if somebody is dancing in that square. But I think the best way to explain it is to show it later on.
But this is not just it, right? The squares?
This is what you see, but what's there is the camera there. It goes all the way to the laptop, and I control that laptop with a small remote controller.
Okay, so basically what you do is you have a video camera aimed at this.
Yep.
The video image is divided in segments.
Yep. In 9 different areas.
Mm-hmm.
And those 9 video streams, there's a patch on top of them. And if there is somebody moving, you can see the amount of pixels that change per second. And that gives a certain value, and that tells Ableton to turn a channel on or off.
So basically, the dancing crowd determines what the DJ plays or how intense it is? Am I saying that correctly?
The control of the crowd is just the overall sound output. There's still somebody who have to contribute the music to the project, but the crowd decides whether they want to hear certain parts or not, and they have to constantly keep moving in order to hear music.
So I know that you also DJ yourself.
Yeah.
You sometimes have these slow evenings, you know, where you have to work very hard to get the people dancing. In Crowd DJ, it seems to be like, how does it solve that, like slow evenings?
Well, I don't do slow evenings. It's very simple. If people don't want to dance, they don't dance, they don't get music. You have to work for the music.
So basically you punish them
Yeah.
by not giving them any music. I like that attitude. And where did you find the inspiration for this? Because it is actually a quite ingenious system, and you would expect that something is already out there, but there isn't, right?
What I see as a DJ, I'm a DJ myself. I quite old school because I like to play with vinyl. I also do digital stuff, but from my experience, I've seen a lot of artists perform, and especially lately, they're just sitting behind a laptop. And I'm not saying that it's easy to do a live set with just a laptop. You can make it as hard as you want. You can do the most amazing stuff, but as a visitor, you only see somebody or maybe 2 people behind a laptop, and that's, to me, that's rather boring. And like you showed with Daft Punk, it's still, the crowd is not really contributing anything to the music, and by giving them control over the actually sound output, and quite a big part of the output as well, just the entire output, yeah, you engage the crowd more into the performance.
Okay. Hey, and a completely different question. Making a comparison between Crowd DJ, your project, and Matthijs Munnik's microscopic opera, you both use its video analysis software, right? Yep. But Matthijs has decided to just use the general image as an input, and you decide to cut it up in parts. Do you think the two are also interchangeable? So could you work, for instance, with the dancing blobs?
I think one very big difference between the 2 projects is that with the tracing of the little worms, the point of that is that it's just a random creation, and you get the soundscapes effects, and the worms do not know they are being videotaped and somebody is making nice compositions.
That's what you say.
But but in this case, you're actually fully aware that the camera itself is only a tool to see if there's somebody moving or not. It could also be infrared or the laser techniques.
But in principle, we could paste your setup to the microscope and have
it will be possible. Yeah.
the microbes in Matthijs' project
dump a whole bunch of worms here.
We could do that too. Eels. Maybe you could demonstrate it to us.
Yeah.
Should we go out of this grid?
If everybody could move outside of the dance floor, also the shadows.
Test 1.
Test 9.
Test 9.
Test 9.
Test 9.
Test 8.
Test 8.
Test 7.
Test 7.
Test 7.
Test 7.
Test 7.
As you can hear, it really doesn't work on your own because, yeah, there's no crowd. I'm just on my own, and myself, I'm not a crowd. So I need at least 9 people to help me here to trigger all the channels and see what we can do. Well, of course, different people like different music, so let's try something else. Keep moving, huh? Okay, I want to do a little experiment. If I say stop, everybody stand still, and the music should drop. So, first move a little. Okay, now stop. Stand still. And now move again. Something else, maybe. So yeah, that's pretty much how it works. I will be playing a half an hour set later, so then you all can join us.
Richard? Okay, up to our next demonstration by Ben Newland. Is he here already? Okay. Who just graduated from the Royal College of Art, and he uses technology, engineering, design to create opportunities for creative expression, social identity, and immersive experience. His most recent demonstration of this will show you tonight, which is called Nomadic Sound System. And before I'm going to talk to him about the project, we're going to see a little demo video up here. If the beamer is on. Wilco, can you give a shout when you have the remote? Time for drinks. No, seriously, if you want to get a drink, maybe you should do it now, and then we'll show the demo video, yeah?
zegt net, je moet de beamer aanzetten, want ik moet zo die film draaien. Hij zegt, het is nu nog niet. Wat een onzin.
Zou je achter de bar liggen? Of wil je net ook achter?
Nee, ik ben ook wel even.
Heb je gewoon bij zich?
Ja, dat moet wel, hij ligt toch niet hier, hè? Ah.
Okay, here we go with the demo video. Benjamin, the artist behind the work. And although it's an impressive video, maybe you could explain to us in more detail what all these individual instruments do, because we see all these people, this crowd with individual instruments, but it's difficult from the video to make up what is exactly happening.
Well, the video's meant to document a marching band coming together. It's essentially a marching band made of wireless battery-powered speakers, all networked together. On the way, you can see them playing with some of the spatial mixing you can do, like the scene in the tunnels where we have treble coming from the left and bass from the right and switching over. But it's a project that opens up some new possibilities for performing electronic music, whether it be through choreography or moving through space and using architecture to change the sound.
So you really see this as an urban thing and not something that you can translate to the clubs and so on?
I think it's more interesting in a cityscape. There is possibilities for doing more of a set piece in a room and playing with human surround sound, but I kind of prefer walking through cityscapes.
And you have a group of people that operate these instruments, or is it basically any group of people in the street that can operate it and do it?
Well, it needs a bit of training, but essentially anyone can do it. What I like to do as an activity is if we bump into people, surprise people, and they've got music on their phones, we can play whatever they're playing on their phone, so we can kind of democratize the DJing business.
Okay, cool. So in that sense, it's also giving away control to the audience.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Shall we invite all of them outside?
Yes, I don't know if everybody will be ready yet, but we'll...
Okay.
It might take a few minutes, but...
So everyone, join us outside. Okay, for everyone already inside. I hope you now understand what we meant by active listening, active listeners. But of course, the real experience starts now, where you get an opportunity to try everything out yourself. That means that Nomadic Sound System will continue outside. They're going to take a little tour through the neighborhood to do some acoustic experiments in the neighborhood. Spasm 2.0 can be tried out on headphones. You can select microbes for your own opera on headphones, and you can dance to the crowd DJ right here for the next 40 minutes, I think. But before you rush off and go and do all those things, I would like to thank all the people presenting in tonight's test lab. Matthijs Munnik, Tom Laan, Benjamin Newland, Edwin van der Heide, Mathijs van Oosterhoudt, and all the others at V2 Lab that have been involved in the Spasm 2.0 project. And besides that, obviously also the people that are working on these events behind the stage, our production crew, Wilco, Richard, Anna Mercedes, Test Lab's assistant curator Ivana, the camera and stream team, who are mostly up there, Menold, Pascal, and Alessandro, yours and Pinar for their PR efforts. If you want to share your comments with us, tweet them, including the hashtag V2 _. And I would like to also thank all the volunteers that have kindly served drinks at the bar, but also demonstrated the Nomadic Sound System outside. Next test lab, note it down on your agenda, will be 26th of May. And this will be a show under the working title, Clothing Without Cloth, guest curated by Valérie Lamontagne. I hope to see you all then. Thank you.